Hey y'all, hey, I am hopping on here to share a little moment that I had with God, just in journaling and speaking to the Lord. It was a amazing revelation, but also a humbling revelation. So I'll just jump right in. So as I'm journaling to God, and as my thoughts sometimes do, they begin to snowball. And I'm gonna look down to have notes and stuff here in front of me that I want to share. And I'm just kind of thinking about like some of the choices me and my husband have made with money, and starting to let worry build up a little bit. Like, are we making the right choices? Is this gonna happen? Is that gonna happen? And I tried to cast down those thoughts and just pray and trust in God. So He was sending me the Bible verses that were helping me. And I love the Lord because He kind of gave me these Bible verses that reaffirmed His promises of what He does for His people that trust in Him and lean to Him and feed on His word. And it took me to a place right before He corrected me. And that's what makes it so great. I'm not afraid of the Lord's correction because I want to be better. I desire to be who He's calling me to be. But I find it so amazing that He cares enough for us to reassure us before He corrects us. And so I get to Psalms 27:8. So Psalms 27:8, New Living Translation. And it says, "My heart has heard you. Say, come and talk with me." And my heart responds, "Lord, I'm coming." So in that moment, it kind of just put down a guard that it just kind of started pouring out. And God gave me a few more Bible verses on specifically like what I was thinking about, what was bothering my heart. And one of them was, just basically, all that I need. Like, I want to make the right decisions. Are we making the right decisions? Have we stewarded well? How can we steward better? But then I was wrestling in my mind, like, I don't want to go back to striving, but like, it seems, Lord, like I'm feeling roadblocks in certain areas. Is it me or is it you? And so God sent me to 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 8. And you will generously provide all you need. And God will generously provide all you need. Then you will always have everything you need and plenty left over to share with others. So that encouraged me, which came with a couple other verses, just reaffirming God's promises and Him providing for His people, Him feeding us, and and I'm just like, thank you, Lord, pouring my heart out, and just still talking to Him in my head and out in prayer. And I started to think about my husband, and I was just like, typical human fleshly behavior is like, is there more He could be doing? Should He move here? Should He move there? Like in certain things that I think would be best. And that's a constant struggle with me. I also claim that I am delivered from control, but it's a continual practice to not want to gain control or think that I know best or push too much, especially in my marriage. I'll pray all the time, God, He's yours. I'm going to let you transform him into who you're calling to be. I'm going to take my hand off him. I'm going to be a good wife and be quiet. And then I have these moments, and then even in prayer, I'm wrestling like, well, is he going to get it? Is he not going to get it? And God just began to speak to me so lovingly. And first, I just kind of had a remembrance of something that just happened a couple days before then. Me and my friend, I visited a friend of mine, and I'm out of shape. I used to be in really good shape, but I am not anymore. After my second child, and in 2020, I don't want to say I let myself go, but I guess that's the proper term. I let myself go, and I didn't work out the way I used to. And so we went on a hike, and it was up a mountain, and it was very challenging for me. And I mean, challenging in a way where it was embarrassing for me. It was shameful because this person I went on this hike with is a best friend from like high school, childhood. So we've danced together. We've seen each other through all parts of life, but like we literally can hang with each other when it comes to things. I mean, she's physically a smaller girl than me always, even at my skinniest, just because she's shorter and more petite. But, in this type of situation, we would be partners in a type of situation like that. But my life has happened to me in the ways it has, and it was a die-hard struggle. Like, not only was I out of breath, my calves burned, my legs was burning, like old injuries would fire up. I kind of feel a pull in my back, and I'm like just over here struggling, and I'm aware of her that I feel bad that I'm dragging her behind. I feel bad that I can't just keep going. Shame, self-bad talk is all happening, and she's just there. She's there supporting me. She could at any moment just walk off and be like, I'm going to meet you at the top, or I'll meet you back on my way back down. She didn't have to wait with me. But lovingly and caringly, I'm painting a picture here. And of course, my friend wouldn't do that. But she could have just walked up the mountain, came back. She probably could have walked the mountain twice and came back, as long as it was taking me and not having to pause with me. But she kind of talked. She didn't even bring any attention to my shortcomings. And when I would speak it out loud, she would just, oh girl, you're fine. You know, we got our time. We got all day. You're doing great. And we would just talk about other stuff, and we would breathe, and she encouraged me. She was like, yeah, you could do it. Not pushy at all, but she was just encouraging. And then when we got to the mountain, top of the mountain, it was so beautiful. The wind was blowing. I felt closer to God. We looked over the city. We had a moment. We had our separate moments. And then we just kind of celebrated. And walking back downhill was so much easier, obviously, than walking uphill. But we even held hands. It was like joyous walking back down the mountain that I kind of conquered. And we had some kind of moments there. And God just brought that to me. Like, why don't you do that with your husband? Because I've had these moments of like, you know, the enemy talks in your voice. I was raised by a single woman until I was like in 6th grade, before she met my now dad. And I have a bunch of strong-willed women in my life, and a few other like closely influential women in my life that all have been single, and you know, they're married now, but most of my life I've seen single women doing on their own. And that part of me was kind of like an identity thing and almost a prize. And so I would have these moments like, would this be easier on my own? My strengths are this. If I could do what he's doing and be the provider, maybe it'll be better. And that's wrong. And I'll admit that. That is wrong. That is pride. That is arrogance. I think in our fleshly mind, we think like it could be justifiable because it's true. But we could completely be wrong, you know. And we're at a place in our marriage where we're submitted to God and doing things the way that he is calling us to do and the way his order is. But I'll have to admit, it's still a struggle for me. It's still a struggle to me to be in place exactly where God called me. And then maybe in my shortcomings and in my discontentment, it causes me to kind of lash out at him. And admittedly, I haven't been doing it out loud to him anymore. But in my secret time and my thoughts, I've had these moments, and I had to deal with it. And God helped me deal with it. He put me right in the midst of how ugly that is to do that, and how arrogant it is. And he didn't even point that out to me. He just pointed out to me how loving my friend was to me, and how that journey was, and how different that journey would have been if she would have took off and just left me, went up the mountain and came back down. I wouldn't even felt the need to finish. Like, I didn't want to do it anyway, but I felt so proud that I actually finished it, and she did it with me, and I had her support. But what if she went on up the mountain without me? Because she could, and came back down. I could, and she could, like, you could keep going, but I've already done it. Would I have really kept going? No. It was her idea to go up the mountain anyway, and I didn't want to do it, even though I knew I probably could use the extra exercise. I would have lost the motivation because my partner was gone. My God. And so in that moment, I felt this guilt, and I love how God and his Holy Spirit just comes in. He does not let you get in that place. He does not let the enemy attack you. Don't feel guilt. Be better. This is why you do. This is loving. This is why you're doing it. You know, it comes from an insecurity. The enemy is talking to you. It is coming from discontentment. But think about all that he is. In marriage, we have to be careful, man or woman, looking at our mate on the other side and looking at everything they're not. That is a trap from the enemy. If I've never recognized it, anything else in my life, I realize it's a trap from the enemy, because when you open it up a little bit with some of your truth and your thoughts, the enemy floods it. And you start to see all these bad stuff, and you forget about the person and the sacrifice that they did, because where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are here, and you're seeing how your strengths are better than their weaknesses, you're forgetting about your weaknesses and where their strengths help your weakness. And God reminded me that, and he has to constantly remind me of that. Big ego, shrinking and relying more on God and edging him all the way into our lives. But I still needed that moment a couple days ago before recording this. That is like, stop doing that. Y'all are on a journey together. I have to keep reminding myself, we are a team. We're in this together. We said a prayer probably about 2 years ago. I was like, Taj, we're going to say this prayer. That's my husband's name if you don't know me. We're going to say this prayer together. Let my strengths complement your weaknesses and your strength complement my weaknesses. And we begin to focus on what helps us grow together. Because when we went through this last season, when we went through that most challenging part of our lives, I feel like it became very difficult on my side. And I believe on his too, because he probably went through some depression. He'll have to tell you more from his side. But you begin to just look at the problems. The mountains begin to get bigger, the valleys are deep, and you begin to look at the winds, the rains, and everything else, and you forget about the foundations you built. You forget about God. You forget about the love. You have to go back to the love. You have to go back to the love. And I think that's why so many marriages that could work out. There's some that should end, but there's many marriages that could work out if we humble ourselves, each individually, humble ourselves and pray. He'll heal the land, but he'll also heal your marriage. He'll bring that into remembrance to you that you're not perfect, that this isn't love when you only think about yourself. And I think that's a good moment to read love. I have it on my phone now to actually remind myself with my kids and my husband, because we know what love is and we love them as a feeling, but we forget what love looks like, especially biblically. So in the New Living Translation, and I have 2 versions on my phone just because I like the different wording for us to remember all those points. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud. Like, how many times in our marriages, in love, even with family members and your children, you well up in pride or rude. It's not rude. It's not demand its own way. It's not all about Tasia. It can't be my own way because God is doing a thing and I might not know all the pieces, and I definitely don't know everything he's doing in my husband. I can see things, but he has his own walk and I have to be patient for God to work out, just as he was patient with me and God worked some things out of me. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wrong. It keeps no record of being wrong. I have to read that one a couple of times to myself. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. So I love that one because at first it used to confuse me a little bit, like, just well, I guess, yeah, in life we love for good to win. But think about that. So there's an injustice when we let the enemy take over our thoughts and take over our marriage and feed us lies. But when the truth prevails and wins out, that we lean into that love and what God's truth is, that's where we find the love. Love never gives up. Love never loses faith. It's always hopeful, endures through every circumstances. So my encouragement to myself has been a constant reminder from God through our challenges and through our storms is that it's just the end of that. We endure through every circumstance. If you look at the person across from you in a marriage and they're fighting with you, they may not have it all together. They may not have all the answers, the resources. They may have some shortcomings. As long as it isn't damaging to you and God is not telling you to get out, it is not a danger to themselves or other people, you stay. You stay through the hard times. You don't leave because it's uncomfortable for you, and it'll be so much easier for you to not help them or walk with them through their dark times. I think in this type of situation, we speak on this broadly, we have to be careful. I want to be careful because this isn't a blanket statement for everyone, but I think it's a statement that more people need to hear. Endure through the hard times. Marriage can start off so whimsical, so in love and good feelings, that when we get to the bad feelings, we feel like, well, this got to be wrong. This can't be right. It can. None of us are perfect. We come from 2 different lives, 2 different paths, 2 different upbringings, and God brought them together for a reason, to make something better, to make something stronger, to create a ministry that'll minister to other people. I know I dropped down some a little bit because I was sitting on my legs. I'm too old for that. But yes, you have to endure. Marriage is not easy. People don't get me. You say that sometimes if they're not in a marriage or haven't endured some years to a marriage. It is not easy. It takes dying to self. When I learned that about 3 years ago, I'm like, dying to self. And then we realize what that really means. You've been living for self, even in your marriage, for so many years, that it's hard to get that concept. But just like as we die to ourselves to be used for a purpose in the kingdom, you have to die. That purpose is within your marriage. So I thank God for that revelation. I thank God for the grace. I thank God for the humbling moments to bring me to this place. I'm glad that we haven't destroyed our own marriage. Let no man, what God put together, no man put asunder, also means the 2 people that are in it, because you can tear it down. You know the Bible verse, what is it? An unwise woman tears down her own house. So God, thank you that I have not. But I thought that was so powerful and was a beautiful imagery that I had literally walked out and lived. And God brought it to my revelation, like, let's do this in your marriage. walk with your husband. He has been my husband specifically is the most compassionate person. We have our different strengths, we have our different weaknesses, but when it comes to other people, he is not critical at all. He's compassionate and he is supportive. Now, on the other hand, I can be critical. I can admit that. I have definitely prayed on and got better about it, but in the beginning of our marriage, I was way more critical and overly opinionated and pushy about what someone else needed to do. And God got his back, because anytime I go to prayer about him, there are those moments he's going to do it. Let God do it. You don't do it, you do it. But then a lot of those moments, I will say 95.75%, 97.75% of the time, God turns that camera right back to me. Those prayers for him, look at what you're doing. And so I thank him for it, because it's making me a better mom, a better wife, and a better person. So I just wanted to share that. And I hope it helps somebody. If God put it together and God is telling you not to leave your marriage, or you're going through hard times, or y'all are going through hard seasons, and y'all are both in it and y'all love each other, keep going. Rely on God, pray to God. And I do believe in therapy. We have had therapy sessions. We have gone to marriage classes through our church. I advocate for that 110%. Healing separately and healing together is so instrumental in growing and developing a marriage. But I hope that helps someone. Prayers, that whoever it's supposed to reach, it reaches, and that it plants seeds and bear fruit. And there's my kids coming, so that's my cue to go.